Hello and welcome back to my channel, Supercoach Challenges. And today we are going through a little bit of trade strategy going forward because, as we saw last week, what I've done in the reviews doesn't necessarily stick. So it's always good to come back and kind of look at the thought process I'm kind of going through at the moment because, I'm looking at this most of the week and trying to figure out what the next best move is. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And last week it did work. It was really good that we kind of went back and thought it through a little bit and ended up picking up Darcy instead of Josh Kelly, which netted us an extra 56 points, 112 points, a better VC score as well, which is good. So the reason we kind of did that was because we kind of had a look at Darcy and what we're doing with this team and figured out that, Darcy was for 50k cheaper than what Kelly was. It also meant that we could move Radagalier to the forward line. And looking at Darcy's break even, it was about 49. And he was coming up against Gold Coast, who had Moyle, or I think that's how you say his name. Sorry if I got that wrong. And meant that he had quite an easy matchup, and it was at Norwood Oval as well, which is a very small oval, meaning that there was probably likely to be a lot of throw-ins and bounces, throw-ups, etc. So it was really kind of a good profile for him to kind of go big. And I think now Darcy, with Darcy and Fremantle, they're kind of figuring out that it's better to maybe just play Darcy as the main ruck, and then use Jackson in there when they need him to pitch it, and not really be in there a heck of a lot. And it's starting to work for them. They're starting to, they've won a couple games now. I guess they weren't against the best competition, but if Fremantle can continue to kind of slowly start figuring this out and winning some games, it can only bode well for Darcy, especially if guys like Brayshaw can start to get the ball a bit more and get in a bit more form. So kind of looking at, the team going forward. So we obviously made the trades in the review, which was weedering out, and then just bringing in Bont, which was purely based off schedule and a little bit on price, but kind of had a look at thinking things through again today, and I actually even thought through, what I was doing. So a whole of the time, especially recently, I guess one of the issues has kind of been thinking about, how are we going to use these trades to kind of get to that full primo team? Because obviously, and a lot of other teams are starting with 13 primos, whereas this team isn't starting with any primos. Zeeble and Sheasel have kind of become primos that everyone's kind of, I guess, set on. But the rest of these guys aren't really primos at all. So it's kind of figuring out, how are we going to be able to do this so that we get a full primo team? Now, thinking through that though today, I realized that one of the main strengths of this team is the way that it builds up cash, because we have a lot of lower price players who we think are going to score, all rights, which means that we think we're going to get quite high price rises compared to, like, if you have, say, Data Clary, or Laird, they're the top of their prices for all of the game. So if they have a bad score, then it's probably likely that they're going to go down quite a bit. Whereas this team most players should be just keeping on building their cash. And with that, it was quite interesting because, I was looking at what the team value was, and with the salary included, it's over 12 mils, about 12.1, 12.2. Most people I've seen is kind of sitting at 11.8, close to 12. And what I was thinking is we've got this advantage, and you kind of want to keep that. If we stop getting rookies in, we're kind of losing that advantage of having that cash generation building up, because, if we keep Jimby for longer, we keep guys like Mackenzie for longer just because we can, they're not going to build fast cash, whereas people are going to be downgrading those guys and bringing in the bigger mids who obviously have a high price already, but then they're bringing in the lower price guys who then build up cash again, and they could build another 200, whereas some of these players only build 50. So what we just need to do is we need to bring in those good rookies as it happens, because training down, Jimby, for example, now will net us 170k, and you think, oh, well, that's a trade loss, so you're not going to be able to do a one up, one down later. But if we keep building the cash back up each week, we might be able to keep carrying the salary forward. Maybe it won't drop as quickly as we probably think. And I guess that's where we're going to be trying to pick midfielders based on, or players in general for premiums that are based on, them starting to bottom out in their price and then getting them on the way up so that value keeps increasing. Because, a lot of the other teams are going to have to stick with their premiums. Whereas if a guy in this team gets injured, especially through injury, like with Tom Green, or injury/suspension, like with Tom Green, a lot of people are stuck with him now, but maybe not the best example because he's only a 1 week, but Will Day, for example, some people looking to trade him out because it's a 2-week suspension, whereas we don't necessarily have to do that. We can kind of put him on the bench and then bring in one of the rookies who we weren't actually playing, but a lot of teams are using. So in saying that, we've also got the cash to pretty much upgrade anyone to anyone we want because we're only doing 1 trade a week as well. So in doing that, what I realized is maybe Wiedering isn't the best call to go out this week. Yes, I know his break-even is starting to get high, 82, but Carlton have quite a good run now. So St Kilda, who should be, he scored 122 against them last, and it should actually be, they've been letting defenders score quite big. So hopefully he can continue that run. And, I don't expect a 122, but break even he could hit. And then you have West Coast who just have nothing really in their forward line. He could score big against them as well. Brisbane, harder game, but, Dogs, bit of a makeshift forward line as Bevo tries to figure out what he's doing. Collingwood lost McStay, so that's a big forward gone. I don't know if Cox will be back by then. I don't think Darcy Cameron will be back by round 10. So, there's a few bigger scores coming. Which then, led me to look at the rest of the team. So if we look at the list and we go to, break-evens, maybe even cash cows is probably a little bit better. So if we saw up, we can see that Mackenzie, if he were to play, is most likely to lose the most money. And then it's Lachie Hunter, which puts us in an interesting position. Now, Lachie Hunter, and then Jimby. Now, Lachie Hunter, I don't want to trade. The reason being is Melbourne's run coming up is very, very nice. Like if we look at this run, Richmond, North, Gold Coast, they could be 100-point games each alone. Hawthorn after that's just 4 games in heaven and really makes me want to get Clary in. But in saying that, Clary is 700, so, 695, and he's got a break even of 160, so he drops 100 next week, he could drop, 50k or 30, 40k maybe. Probably not 50, but anyway, you know what I mean? So that's money we save. So what I'm thinking instead is we are going to go back to the field and we're going to trade out Jimby and we're going to trade out Mackenzie. Now, Warple could go the week after this one stays back. I'm kind of undecided on it at the moment. But what this does allow us to do is then bring in the players we want to, because we can move Ash with the new DBP to the defense line, and we can look at bringing in 2 midfielders / forward midfielders if we need. There's quite a bit of flexibility here. So the filter thing it's not working, and it's so annoying. I don't know what's wrong with Supercoach at the moment because it was working today, so I don't know why it's gone back off, but the filter's not showing. It's really annoying. But we have quite a few good rookies coming up. Now, Matt Roberts is probably the highest on the list with that 93 that he scored on the weekend. Now, the problem I can see with Matt Roberts is if Sydney get some players back and he's just back to the sub, and then you lose all cash generation, and that's kind of a bit of a worry, but probably nearly a risk we have to take with this team. Or not a risk, but I think Matthew Johnson got put to the forward line and just horrendously stopped his scoring with Will Brodie coming in as sub. What happens if Fremantle's to start up? Will Brodie's now playing well enough. Does that mean Johnson goes at the team, or he's even quite the sub risk? So maybe one we stay away from. And then the other one is the Port Adelaide player who probably doesn't show here because he's a forward, but you can get him to come up anyway. Why did that? Oh, it's not switched because this is so annoying. We do that, it's still not going to switch. So, yeah, this is annoying. But anyway, we do it through here. Dylan Williams. So he's actually playing out the back line, which is quite a good role. Now, there's also a Hawthorn youngster, Seamus Mitchell, who had quite a good score on the weekend as well, 67. So he's probably someone we'll look at as well. But next week, and I think if we keep this cadence going, kind of getting the one up, one down as players start to get to their break even, it could be helpful. Now, the issue with doing this, I guess, is where we are kind of hamstring ourselves by having worse scoring players on the team, especially in the forward line now. It's actually very, very brittle because a lot of them failed, those forward line players. So it might be that we need to kind of target the forward line maybe for upgrades going forward. And now with the DPP changes, we do have a bit of flexibility in that regard with being able to do that. So anyway, going back to the trades. So Pau can go back in for now because he's actually got quite a good game next week as well. He's got Gold Coast, who generally let midfielders score a little bit. So we'll keep him for another week and we'll go Mackenzie and Jimby. Now, we put Ash up there and that will allow us to bring in Roberts, who we think is the best. I mean, he has shown that he can score really well. I think in the preseason matches, he did quite well. And it's just that he's been the sub, which is the reason why he hasn't scored so well. And now it's decided to stop with that. So what we need to do is just do this for now. Right. So this is going like that. And then we trade that. Really don't know why it does this at the moment. So that's going to bring us to 2.09 salary, and then we trade Jimmy. So the way we have to do this, we have to trick this to thinking we need a midfielder. And then we bring in Bont, is who we're thinking we're going to do. So there's Bont. And then we trade. Well, we're going to have to use a boost to do this, but we won't actually use the boost. So then we trade out Jimby and bring Ash back in. There he is. He was up here. Lachie Ash. There it is. Then that resets that. So, and if we look at undoing our changes, we go back. So we've only lost, $181,000 on this upgrade, which was actually a 400K upgrade. Just about 340-ish K upgrade. So, yeah, it's really, I guess, keeping that money in the team, and it's not a direct, I guess, upgrade for the now. Now, the thing with Jimby is we could possibly keep him, and we could decide to go power, but I don't. So Jimby could potentially lose money and then gain money again. Problem's going to be if he plays this week and he scores horribly again, then he's lost money. And Pow's would lose money as well, but at least it would be at a higher base than what Jimby would be. So for now, we're going to probably go with that. Now, looking at the premium choices, if we go to players. Now, we did this quickly the other day, but what we want to do is we'll probably just go to, I don't really like it. Do 500. If there's anything above, but we go. Cash cows. We can kind of see who's making a lot of money. So Wilkie's not really in our view at all. Anderson, after his horrible first 3 rounds, is going to get back to where he was at the start pretty much. So that's, real fun for guys, people who picked him up at the start and then traded him out round 3 for him to come out and have that 137. I was one of those in my team, and it's very annoying because he was looking like losing. If he scored the same he had for the previous 3 games, another 40k, and it was just not really able to hold, but that happens in Supercoach. Jordan Dawson is going to skyrocket still up another 27k. And I wonder what that is projected off. 114. So if he goes 150 again, he's probably going up another 36k. Or even 40k. So he could be as much as Clary next week, which is pretty wild. Nick Blakey, not really interested in. I had him last year. But he was like 270, I think, or something like that. I know he's like 310. But he did look in really good form against the Tigers, but hasn't really been able to hold that up since. Grundy, Gorn could be back, so you definitely don't want to get Grundy. He's also a ruck. Don't really need to cover that at the moment because Draper's been playing pretty well. Dangerfield's actually a little bit interesting, but he's just too old. So, and I don't see him continuing his rate of scoring he has been doing. To go, he missed with an illness last week. I don't think he's top 8 at the end of the year. Jake Lloyd's an interesting defender as like your last defender pick, but I don't think the value's really there at 533k. He'd have to have gone to like 450, and then you could probably make the argument that, maybe he is worth it if he keeps playing like he is right now. They are quite undermanned in the back line as well, which may be a reason why he's getting a little bit more ball usage. Is probably the oldest guy back there. Marshall, I just don't think. Well, I like the other ruck we're getting, Sim English. So I don't think Marshall's going to be in our calculations at all. So there's no point really talking about him. He's good for like the classic players who are playing now and trying to get some value, but for us, it's just a waste of a trade. As you can see, Darcy's still got a very low break even. That is going to come back a bit, but I think this is based off of a score of like 105 or something. Yeah, 105. So he could go up more than 16 and even keep his break even a bit lower. Tim Kelly, not interested. Now, Lachie Neale is interesting. He's actually got a really, really good run. And with a break even of 90, it could be an hour and everything. Like, look at this run for Brisbane. GWS, no green as well. So that's one midfielder down. Haven't been really keeping teams low, and he does have a great average. Fremantle, also midfield, not really lining it up. Carlton was a very restricted midfield last year, but they got absolutely dominated by the Crows. So, who were easily scored against in previous years. So, I'm not sure you can really base on that. Essendon, I think if you look at his scores against Essendon, he's gone 170 previously against them over the past 3 or 4 years. It's like crazy. Gold Coast, another easy matchup. Adelaide, easy matchup probably for Brisbane, I would say. And then Hawthorn, also an easy matchup. So that's around 13 to pass his bye. He's got an extremely good run. Even after that, like Sydney, that's probably a hard one, but St Kilda, Richmond, West Coast, it only really gets hard at around 18, 19. And even there, it's just ridiculous after that. So is this one we go for this week? I don't know. Like Bontempelli's also got a strong case. But what's his break even at? If it's still high, we might not go for him. Or are you Bont? McRae. Bond had a 140, so surely his can't be that high. There's English. Sorry, 87. So it's a bit of a muchness. What you get 17k out of Bont, or you get 12k out of Neale. Was Bont's basis for this score? He's actually got a lower break even, so we would suggest at 126 and 118. Yes, very similar. So, which means for 12k change. So what you would say is for him to even get close, he has to score the 128, 129. But I guess, Bont also has to score 126, which he could against Fremantle. So I think we can wait a week on Neale. The other one actually that is now piquing my interest is Josh Dunkley. Even his break-even's quite high. Like if he hits his break-even or projected score 119, he's only going up 1,000, 1,800. So yeah, I think that he's kind of fine to leave for another week, but will be someone we look at getting probably soon. I mean, Touk's got a really good run as well. Makes it hard. It's kind of like a Touk. Our upgrade's looking like being Touk has North. It's such a good matchup. His last score against him was 160. Oh no, that was the game before. But look at his score against Richmond and Melbourne. Melbourne, he's had 3 140s in a row. Even Richmond, he's averaged what? 280 against? Not 280. Bloody 130 plus. Near on 140 probably. So, so a few choices. I'll tell you what. So looking forward then, it looks like our candidates might be Touk, Neale's actually not that great against Fremantle, even though it's supposed to be a revenge game. So maybe we go Bont, Touk, Dunkley, Neale. We want Neale for this Essendon game. Bont, Touk, Neale, Dunkley, Neale. That's an alright flow. I mean, round 12 we get to do the upgrades, so they got the round 12 bye. And that's another thing we haven't looked at. That's why Touk's going to be a good choice. I think Bont has the last one. Yeah, he has around 15 bye. The Bulldogs players are good to get in. And Touk's good to get in because doesn't matter. And also, yeah, actually that's why Bont is good to get in, because we can use 4-4-4-4 here and then 3. So yeah, we'll stick with that. Should I boost this week? That's another question. But yeah, I think let's see how Bont scores against Fremantle. 100, 149, 107. He doesn't really set it alight, does he? And they're at Optus. But he did score 149 at Optus. The Gold Coast at Metricon. Gold Coast are at Metricon. What's he priced to go up to? 2.7. So it's definitely, and that's with the projected 118. So it's definitely better to go Bont, I think, just based on break even. And yeah, break even 87. So even if he scores badly, he's still going to go up money. Whereas Touk could go 105 and not actually go up that much. So he could go down. So we'll go with the Bont for now. Anyway, in saying that, thanks for watching the vid. That was just a few, thoughts about trades going forward. I'm not sure who I'll probably VC Bont into Dacos this week. Seems to be the choice. And yeah, this is going to be an interesting round coming up. Hopefully we can hit another big score. It's probably going to have a lot to do with the other players rather than the 3 primos we bring. I mean, we got very lucky with 128, 136. And I think like the previous week it was 150 on Dacos. Now Anzac Day, hopefully he stands up and goes another big score, but that will be yet to see. Anyway, if you would like to subscribe, leave us a like, leave us a comment, say what you would do. That'd be great. It'd be good to see some people get to the end of the video, but I know that does not necessarily happen. But anyway, team's starting to shape up pretty well. I think that Bont's going to be a pretty good choice either way, and it'll be interesting to see how we score this week, and hopefully maybe we can break that 2,000 mark again. But that all remains to be seen. So enjoy and have a good week super coaching. See ya.